Good evening, everyone. In the last session, we understood what is lambda expression and what is functional interface and how to invoke the lambdas by using functional interfaces. Lambda expressions introduced in Java 1.8 version. Earlier, Java is called as only object-oriented programming language. From Java 8 onwards, functional programming support also added to the Java. Here, lambda nothing but one anonymous function. Lambda is nothing but one anonymous function, no name, no modifier, no return type for the lambda. When we write a lambda expression, to call that lambda expression, we are going to use functional interface. So what is a functional interface? The interface which contains only one abstract method is called as functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke the lambda expressions. Functional interface can contain any number of default methods and static methods. You can take any number of default methods and static methods, but there should be only one abstract method in the functional interface. Functional interfaces are used to invoke lambda expressions. Good. Now, next thing is in Java 1.8 version, they provided several predefined functional interfaces like predicate, consumer, supplier, and function. So these are some predefined functional interfaces which are available in the 1.8. We are learning these functional interfaces to understand our stream API. In the stream API, lot of methods they introduced. So to work with the stream API methods, we need to have the knowledge on these functional interfaces. Yesterday, we had discussed about one functional interface, that is predicate. What is predicate? Predicate is a predefined functional interface. It is used to check the condition and it returns true or false value. Predicate is used for conditional checking. Now, I want to write the logic to check a condition and return true or false. Instead of writing a separate method for that, we can write a lambda, and to call that lambda, we can go for predicate. To call that lambda, we can go for predicate. In the predicate interface, there is a test method. In the predicate interface, there is a test method. Test method, when you call here, whatever the lambda I am writing, lambda I am storing into a variable. Guys, can we store method to a variable? In the Java, we can write the methods, right? Can we store a method to the variable? Can we store method in the variable in the Java? Is it possible to store a method in the variable? No. But can we store lambda into a variable? Can we store lambda into a variable? Yes, a lambda can be stored into a variable, but a method cannot be stored into variable. So here I'm writing a lambda. That lambda I stored into a variable. Then to execute that lambda, I called that method. I stored that lambda into functional interface variable. When I call that functional interface method, that lambda expression got executed. That will return true or false value. Then we have taken one task on the predicate, declare names in the array and print the names which are starting with A using lambda expression. Print the names using lambda expression. Declare the array with the names. So in that names, which names are having the first character as A, only those names we have to print by using lambda. So here our lambda should take the name as an input and it should check name is starting with the character A or not. Yes. So this is our program. I have declared one name array, names array I have declared. I stored some names in that. Then I have written a lambda expression. Name, this is the input for the lambda, and name dot caret of double equal to A. It will check the condition. If the condition satisfies, it will return true. If the condition not satisfy, it will return false value. This array inputs names available in the array. One by one, I am giving as the input for the lambda, and I am calling that lambda expression by using predicate. I'm writing a for each loop. Inside that, I'm taking each name. For each name, I'm calling p.test of name. P.test of name. So here it is going to call that lambda whenever you call the test method with the name. If the lambda condition satisfy, it will return true. That means the name is starting with A. If the name is starting with A, then it is going to print that name. Otherwise, it will not print that name. Otherwise, it will not print that name. Are you clear with my point? Are you clear with my point? How we have written the lambda expression for that? Are you clear with my point? Able to understand? Able to understand? Good. Fine. Okay, with this we are able to understand this. Now let me take one more example. This time my requirement is different. This time my requirement is different. Task 2. Task 2. Take list of persons and print persons whose age is greater than or equal to 18 using lambda expression. Take list of persons and print persons whose age is greater than or equal to 18 using lambda expression. Now I'm going to give you one class called person. That person will have name and age. Integer string name is available. String name available. Int age is available. Okay, I'm going to write a constructor for the person to initialize that. String name int age. String name int age. This dot name is equal to name and this dot age is equal to age. So like this, I'm giving you one person class. Now you need to take a list of persons and you need to print persons whose age is greater than or equal to 18 using lambda expression. Can you guys write the logic now? Can you guys write the logic? Yeah, write the logic and send me on the chat box. Write the logic and send me in the chat box. Come on.
Millions of candidates.
Completed, guys. Yeah, let us see here. Let me create that project. Predicate demo, person demo. Predicate persons demo. Now in this class, I'm going to declare a class called person, a normal class. Yeah, here I have already written that logic. Now let me take this person class. In the person class, I have declared two variables. One is a name variable, second one is age variable, and I have taken a constructor. In the constructor, 2 parameters available, and I'm initializing that. Here I'm taking a predicated person demo. I'm taking a main method. Let me create a list of persons. Person P1 is equal to new person. Person P1 is equal to new person. Person is expecting name and expecting age, some 26. Like this. I'm going to create 4 persons, P1, P2, P3, P4. Okay. This person is having age as 16. This person is having 36. This person is just 6. Okay, guys. So there are 4 persons available. 4 person objects are available. Let me store these persons into one collection. Arrays dot as list method P1 comma P2 comma P3 comma P4. So there are 4 persons available. These are stored into one collection. So arrays dot as list method will take the objects and will convert into a collection. Now I have a collection. Can you tell me how to write the lambda to print the persons whose name is greater, whose age is greater than or equal to 18? I want you to print the persons whose age is greater than or equal to 18. How to do that? How to do that? Very simple, right? Now I will write a lambda p dot age, p of p dot age greater than or equal to 18. That's it. Store into predicate. In the predicate, I'm specifying that person is the input for the predicate. Person object is the input for the predicate. So here I'm writing a predicate. This predicate is taking person object as an input. I'm specifying that as a generic. This is the input object. P is a input person object. Once this person object is given as input, it will execute this condition. Person age is greater than or equal to 18 or not. If age is greater than or equal to 18, then it will return true. Otherwise it will return false value. For person colon persons. If predicate dot test of p, if it is true, system dot out dot println p dot name. That means p nothing but person dot name. I'm going to print it. Can I call this is my lambda? Can I call this is my lambda? Yes or no? Yes. Here I have taken one class called person class, 2 variables available. I have taken a parameter as a constructor, and I have taken a predicate person demo. Here I'm representing 4 person objects. 4 person objects converted to one collection. Then I have taken a predicate. Predicate P, if age greater than or equal to 18, then that predicate should return true, otherwise return false. This lambda I have written to decide person age is 18 or not. That lambda I stored into predicate. Then I am trying to call the predicate for each person object in the collection. There are 4 person objects available. I am iterating the persons by using for each method. Then I'm going to call this predicate method for each person available in the collection. Now, if predicate dot test, whenever I call this line 32 line, it is going to call this lambda. Lambda will give true or false. If it is true, person age is greater than 18, then print it. Otherwise, don't print it. Here I'm giving the name as John, Smith, Raja, and Rani. So I have given different names for the people, and I'm trying to call that lambda. Run this. Run as Java application. John having 26, Raja having 36. What about Smith and Rani? Their age is not greater than 18, so their names are not coming. Are we able to pass one object as an input for the lambda? Are we able to check the condition? Are we able to pass one person object as an input for the lambda? Are we able to check the condition? Yes. Arrays.asList is a method. It is used to convert given values into one collection object. Arrays.asList. Arrays is a predefined class. In that, asList is a method. Whatever the inputs you will give for asList method, it will store into collection object. It will store them into collection object. Samjha? All of you clear with my point? P is a person object, guys. P is a person object. P.age, I'm accessing the age of the person. If age is greater than or equal to 18, then it will return true. If age is not greater than 18, it will return false. This is a lambda expression. Here, persons is a collection. From persons collection, I'm taking each person. Each person I'm passing as the input for the predicate test method. When we call predicate test method, this lambda will execute. It will give true or false. If it is true, I'm printing the name of the person. If it is not true, I'm not printing. My requirement is print the names of the persons whose age is greater than or equal to 18. That is the requirement. So we are able to implement that requirement. Are we able to understand? Very good. Now, here, next one is predicate joining. There is a concept called predicate joining. I want to perform AND operation and OR operation. So here, currently we are writing a predicate, a single predicate, and we are checking a condition. Then what about predicate joining? To combine multiple predicates, we will use predicate joining. I want to check person age should be greater than 18 and person should be from Hyderabad location. Person name should start with R and age should be greater than 18. Then I want to print that person. Predicate joining. Predicate joining. To combine more than one predicate, to combine multiple predicates, I can say to combine multiple predicates, we will use predicate joining. To combine multiple predicates, we will use predicate joining. Are you guys clear with my point? Now we have AND method and we have OR method in the predicate. To combine multiple predicates, we are going to use predicate joining. Okay, now I want to get the employees who are working in Hyderabad location and working in the DBA team or database team. If the person is working in Hyderabad location and the person is belongs to database team, only that person I want. I will give you one scenario. Task. Print employee names who are working in HYD location for database team. Who are working in HYD location in DB team. That's it. So this is my class. I'm giving employee. Inside this class, I will give you some name, string name, string location, and string department. That's it. I'm giving employees like this. I'm going to give you employee like this. Now print EMP names who are working in HVD location in DB team. Now here guys, we need to check one condition or we need to check two conditions. We need to check one condition or we need to check two conditions. Two conditions. So we need to use one predicate or we need to use two predicates. We need to use one predicate or we need to use two predicates. We need to use two predicates. And predicate or R predicate. And predicate or R predicate. And predicate. Now let's go for this. predicate join demo, new class, predicate join demo. In this, I'm going to take employee class to represent employee data. I'm taking employee class, which is used to represent employee data. And I need a parameter constructor to store the data. Employee. I will take 3 parameters. This dot, sorry, string name, string location, and string department. Initialize these variables. This dot name is equal to name. This dot location is equal to location. This dot department is equal to department. Okay guys, now let me create 3 employee objects and let me store the data in the collection. Main method. Create the employee objects. Employee E1 is equal to new employee. Employee E1 is equal to new employee. For this employee, I'm giving the name something like Raju, and the Raju location is Chennai, and department is working in the DevOps. Okay, similarly, let me take other employees also. Raju, Rani, she's working in Pune and she is working in networking. Now here Ashok and working from Hyderabad and working for DB. Okay, next one is some Ganesh is working from Delhi and he is working in testing. Okay guys, now here I have employees E1, E2, E3 and E4. From these employees, I want to find out the employees who are working in Hyderabad location in the database team, in the database department. Okay, first these employees should be converted into one collection. How to convert them into collection? Arrays.asList E1, E2, E3, E4. Now store these employees into one collection, EMPs. Now, can you write a lambda to satisfy our requirement? Can you write a lambda to satisfy our requirement? Can you write a lambda to satisfy our requirement? Come on, guys. Can you write the lambda to satisfy our requirement? Come on. One predicate or 2 predicates? What is the requirement? Print EMP names who are working in HYD location in the TB team. Simple. First, let me take one predicate. Predicate. What is input for the predicate? Employee. P1 is equal to P of P dot, sorry, P1 or E1. Predicate 1. For the predicate, what is the input we need to provide, guys? Employee. E dot location dot equals to HYD. This is one predicate. E dot location dot equals. E dot location means what is the location of the employee? Is that location equal to HYD or not? And the second one, second predicate. Predicate of employee P2. Second predicate, I'm passing input as employee object. E dot department. If department dot equals to database, then I want it. Okay, can I say that these are 2 predicates? One predicate is used to check the location and another predicate is used to check the department. When I execute this lambda, you see here E is the input for the lambda. I can say like this. but writing the brackets is optional, right? When there is only one parameter for the lambda, writing the bracket is optional. Okay, here E is a input for the predicate, input for the lambda. My lambda expression will take employee object as an input and it will check the condition. It will return true or false value. Similarly, second predicate, it will take the employee object as the input. It will execute this condition. If condition satisfy, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false value. Okay, this is my second predicate. There are two predicates available. Now, P1 dot and P2. P1 dot and P2. Right? P1 and P2. So here I'm calling that P1 and P2. I'm joining the predicates. Okay, this is my final predicate. Final predicate. Now I'm going to call P dot test of employee. I need to pass the employee object. Here I'm passing P1 and I'm passing P2 and I'm combining the predicates by using predicate joining. So this is my predicate joining. So P1 and P2, P1 should satisfy. That means P1 predicate will execute this condition. It should return true. Then P2 will execute this lambda. It will return true. If P1 and P2 both are true, then only test method will return true. Now let me go for employee objects. For employee EMPs. Now here let me call the final predicate P dot test of employee object. P dot test of employee object. If P dot test of employee is satisfied, then system dot out dot println E dot name. E dot name. Now let me run this program. Run as Java application. Only Ashok is coming because from HYD in the database only Ashok is working. Okay, suppose if Ganesh is also in the HYD, Ganesh record will come or Ganesh record will not come. Will not come because Ganesh is working in the testing department. My predicate is expecting database department. Come on, guys. Are you able to understand what is predicate joining? Are you guys able to understand what is predicate joining? First of all, what is predicate? What is predicate? Can you tell me? What is predicate? Predicate is a functional interface. What is the predicate functional interface? What is the purpose of predicate interface? Functional interfaces are used to call the lambda expressions. Functional interfaces are used to call the lambda expressions. Here I have a requirement of checking two conditions. I will give you list of employees. You need to print the names of the employees who are working in Hyderabad in the database department. Okay, to check whether employee belongs to Hyderabad location or not, I'm writing one predicate. And to check whether employee working in the database department or not, I'm writing another predicate. P1, P2. P1 is one predicate which will check the location. P2 is one predicate which will check the department. Now I want to execute two predicates. If two predicates are satisfied, then only we can say that employee working in the database department from Hyderabad location. P1 and P2. we are combining those predicates. That is called predicate joining. In the earlier program, what we have done, we have directly written the lambda and we directly call that lambda by using predicate. But today we want to execute two predicates at a time. That's why we have joined that predicates by using predicate and method. Suppose if the person is belongs to Hyderabad or if he is working in the database, I want that. Then if any one condition satisfied, then I want to print the employee name. Then what we can do? Can I go for R method? If I go for P1 and R of P2, if I go for P1 and R of P2, run this program, then what happened? Either a Hyderabad location or a database team member, I want to print it. Like this, if you want to combine more than one predicate, if you want to combine multiple predicates, then you can go for predicate joining. Predicate joining and method or methods are available. Okay guys, if you have three predicates, same concept. Here P1 dot and of P2 and P3. Like this, you can add three predicates also. You can add four predicates also, no problem. Okay guys, now I want to write one more predicate. If the person names start with the uppercase character A, then only I want it. P3 department of DB, department, right, name, E dot name starts with the character A. Character A. Now, how many predicates I'm joining now? How many predicates I'm joining now? Suppose here Anil is available. Anil is available. P1 and P2 and P3. Okay, here Ganesh is also working for database team. Anil is there, Rani is there, Ashok is there, Ganesh is there. There are two people in the database department in the HYD location. Okay, now if I execute this, what output I'm going to get? Check my predicates P1 dot and P2 and P3. P1, P2, P3. Three predicates I'm joining. Three predicates I'm joining. Understand my point? Understand my point? What is the output? What output I'm going to get? Run as Java application. Only Ashok is coming. Hyderabad location, database team. Name starts with the character A. Ganesh, Ashok, both are in the database team from Hyderabad, but it is not coming. Ganesh record is not coming because name should start with the character A, then only I want to get that. These kind of questions they will ask in the interview to write the code. They will tell you, can you please write the lambda expression for the given scenario? They will give you a scenario like this. You need to write the lambda and you need to call the lambda. If your lambda logic is to decide true or false, if your lambda logic is to check the condition true or false, then you can call that lambda by using predicate. If you want to execute only one condition, you can go for a predicate. If you want to execute more than one condition, more than one predicate, then you can go for predicate joining. Predicate joining is having and method and or methods. I hope you understood what is predicate joining. You understood what is predicate joining? Samjha? Okay. So what are the methods we have seen in the predicate interface? Predicate interface, what are the methods we have seen? We have seen test method, we have seen and method, and we have seen or method. What is the purpose of and method? To add predicates. To join one predicate with another predicate, we'll go for predicate and method. What is the purpose of or method? That is also used to join one predicate with another predicate. When you use and, all the predicates should satisfy. When you use or, at least if one predicate satisfied, it will return true. Test method to execute the predicate. Predicate interface is a functional interface which is used to execute the lambda. That lambda is conditional based lambda. If any lambda is a conditional based lambda, to execute that lambda, then we are going to use this predicate. In the predicate, only test is the abstract method, remaining are the default methods. Because functional interface means there should be only one abstract method. Only test is the abstract method, and R methods are the default methods in the predicate interface. Directly we can call them. Good, perfect. Next one, after predicate, there is another functional interface which is called supplier. Supplier functional interface is available. Supplier functional interface is available. Supplier functional interface. This is also one predefined functional interface. This is also one predefined functional interface. Okay, guys. Supplier is a predefined functional interface introduced in Java 1.8 version. 1.8 version. It contains only one abstract method. Only one abstract method, that is get method. That is get method. Supplier interface will not take any input. Supplier interface will not take any input. It will only returns the value. It will only returns the value. Okay, what is the meaning of a predicate? Predicate will take one input, and predicate will take one input, and predicate will check the condition, will return true or false. Similarly, there is one more functional interface. There is one more functional interface which is called supplier. Supplier is a predefined functional interface introduced in Java 1.8 version. It contains only one abstract method, that is get method. Now, what is the difference between predicate and supplier? Predicate will take the input, will return the Boolean value. Supplier will not take anything, but it will give the output. Supplier is only used to get the data, not to give the data. Supplier is only used to get the data, not to take any data. It will only give the data. For example, I want to generate one random OTP. To generate a random OTP, I need to write a lambda expression. I want to return the lambda expression to generate one random OTP. Okay, so to generate the random OTP, we can use this supplier. So I want to write a lambda which will give me some output without taking any input. In that scenario, we can go for supplier. Okay, guys, supplier is a predefined functional interface introduced in Java 1.8 version. It contains only one abstract method, that is get method. It contains only one abstract method, that is get method. Supplier interface will not take any input. It will only returns the value. Example, generate OTP generation. OTP generation. Now, let me go for a logic supplier demo. New class. I'm going to take the class as supplier demo. Now, I want to write a lambda which will not take any input, but it will give some output. No input, but output will be there. Then we will go for this predicate. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? I want to generate one random OTP. So to generate the random OTP, first I'm going to take string symbols. I want to take it from A to Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Right. I have taken some symbols. some characters. From these characters, I want to generate one OTP, random characters. For this, I want to use I want to use a lambda. I want to write the lambda expression. I want to write the lambda expression for this. Understand my point? I want to write the lambda expression for this. Okay. How to write the lambda? By using supplier. Can you tell me first of all, what is a supplier? Can you tell me what is a supplier? Can you tell me what is a supplier? What is supplier? Come on. I will write a lambda which will execute some logic and will return some data as a output, not only random value, anything. My lambda will execute some logic, will return some output, but it will not take any input. Supplier means just it will provide the output. It will not take any input. If your lambda having a requirement of without taking any input, it will give some output. Right? Without input, it will just return the output. That is called supplier. Okay. Let me go for this. Let me remove these symbols also, no problem. Let me write a supplier. Let me write a lambda first. No input for the lambda, just body will be available. No input for the lambda, only body. I'm writing a loop for integer I is equal to 0 or I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. I want 5-digit OTP. Okay, I want 5-digit OTP. Now here, I'm going to take 5-digit OTP here. Now, how to take this 5-digit OTP? How to take this 5-digit OTP? See here, first I am taking string OTP is equal to empty. Now I'm going to give OTP is equal to OTP plus OTP is equal to OTP plus math.random. Math.random. I want to get some random number multiplied by 10. I want to get some random number multiplied by 10. Let me convert this into value. Let me convert this into value. So now here I'm calling math.random, some random number it will give. I'm multiplying by 10. I'm giving that to integer that will be added to this string OTP. So this is my lambda which will generate a random OTP with 5 digits. Now in order to call this lambda, we need a functional interface. This is my lambda. In order to call this lambda, we need a functional interface. That's where we will go for supplier. I'm going to take supplier as a lambda caller. Supplier interface I'm using here. Supplier is my functional interface. Supplier is my functional interface. Are you guys clear with my point? Here this method must return a result of that. Now once it is done, return OTP. This supplier functional interface I'm using to call this lambda expression. I'm using this to call the lambda expression. Okay. Now final string OTP is equal to OTP of this. It is saying that remove final modifier for OTP. Now it should be local variable of OTP in the enclosing scope must be final or effectively final. Now this should be available inside this OTP. Okay. I'm writing a lambda. This lambda is executing. A loop is executing in the lambda. I'm taking a random number and I'm trying to add that to the string. I'm returning this. Now let me go for system.out.println s.get. Whatever the lambda I have taken to generate a 5-digit number, 5-digit OTP, I want to generate by using lambda. For that, I have written some logic. So to call the lambda, we need a functional interface. So this lambda, I store it into supplier interface reference variable. Supplier interface is having which method? It is having a get method. So whenever I call this get method, it is going to execute this lambda. This lambda will return the OTP. Now let me run this program, run as Java application. Can you check the console? Can you check the console? System.out.println yes.get. Are we getting any output? Yes.get. I'm calling the get method. It has to return that value, right? It has to return that value. Is it returning that value? We are getting all zeros. Run as Java application. We are getting all zeros. Why it is giving all zeros? Can you check that? Lambda is called, int I is equal to 1, math.random. Initially it is empty plus integer of math.random. If I don't give this simply, still all zeros. Int of math.random. It is giving 0 of 0 of 0. Whenever we call math.random of that OTP, it is giving that value with a decimal number. So let me divide that. Let me multiply that with 10 to remove the decimal numbers. Yeah, now we are getting the decimal value. To change that decimal value, let me typecast it into normal int value. If I don't multiply with 10 now, random is giving a decimal value. Random is giving a decimal value. Run as Java application. Now we are getting the perfect digit. Whatever we are expecting random. So here I'm executing the loop for 5 times. 5 times it is give 5. I'm executing the loop for 5 times to add 5 random digits to the OTP. Okay guys, now let me call this method once again. 3 times I'm calling. Every time new OTP should be generated. When I call 3 times, 3 different OTPs generated. For your mobile, OTP will come, right? How that OTP will be generated? Like this, we can generate that OTP. Understand? Am I giving any input for the lambda? Am I giving any input for the lambda? Or I'm not giving any input for the lambda? I'm not giving any input for the lambda, but my lambda is returning some value. What is the value which is returning by lambda? My lambda is generating a OTP and it is returning that OTP. How many digits are coming in the OTP? 5 digits. If I want 6 digits in the OTP, I will execute the loop for 6 times. Run as Java application. Now see, 6 digits OTP generated, 3 OTPs I generated, 3 OTPs are different. If I generate 10 OTPs also, all OTPs will be different. Every OTP will be unique. Run this program, run as Java application. Now you see, I have generated 6 OTPs. 6 OTPs, any one OTP matching with other OTP? Any one OTP who is matching with other OTP? Not matching. I have generated a OTP by using lambda. That lambda is not taking any input, but lambda returning some value. When your lambda expression will not expect any input, but it returns some output, to invoke that lambda, we can go for supplier. We can go for a concept called supplier concept. Are you able to understand this? Are you able to understand this? What is the difference between predicate and supplier? What is the difference between predicate and supplier? Yeah. Why I am multiplying this math.random is used to generate some random number. Instead of this, we can check math.random. Math.random is giving some decimal value. So the decimal value, I want to remove the digits. That's why I'm multiplying with 10. Then I'm converting into value so that a digit will come. A digit will come. Okay, guys. Run as Java application. Now OTPs are generated. My lambda is not taking anything. My lambda is not taking anything, but it is giving some output. Predicate is a conditional based. Predicate will take the input, will check the condition, will return true or false. But supplier means it will just supply the output without any input. Supplier will just provide the output without any input. Understood? Predicate will take the input, supplier will not take any input. Good. Similarly, there is another functional interface available, which is a consumer. It is opposite of supplier. Consumer. It will take input, but it will not give any output. Consumer interface will take the input, but it will not give any output. Supplier, without taking input, it is giving output. Simple example, I want to retrieve the records from the database, all the records from the database. So can I use a supplier for that? I want to retrieve all the records from the database table. Without giving any input, can I retrieve all the records from the table? Yes or no? We can go for supplier, right? Yes. Without taking any input, it will retrieve the records and it is going to give all the data. Yeah, these symbols we can remove, guys, not required. I'm not using that. I'm generating OTP, so characters are not required. I want to retrieve all the records from the database table. I want to retrieve all the records from the database table. Should I go for a predicate? Should I go for a predicate to retrieve all the records from the database table? No. What predicate will do? It will just take the input, check the condition, return the output. Okay, good. Next one, consumer. What is the purpose of consumer? Consumer is a predefined functional interface. Okay, what is consumer? Consumer is a predefined functional interface. It contains one abstract method. It contains one abstract method, that is accept. It is having only one abstract method, that is accept. It will take the input, but it will not give any output. Consumer will accept input. Consumer will accept input, but it won't return anything. Consumer means you just give the input. It will do the operation based on the input, but it will not return anything. That is a consumer. What is the difference between supplier and consumer, guys? Can you tell me? What is the difference between supplier and consumer? Can you tell me? Consumer will accept input, but it will not return anything. Supplier will not take any input, but it will return something. Consumer will only accept, supplier will only returns. Okay. Now my requirement is my lambda expression should take the input and do some operation, but it will not print anything. That's it. Consumers will consume the input, supplier will supply the output. That's it. Okay. Right. Let me go for consumer demo. Consumer demo. I will give the name as the input for lambda. Just to print good evening for the given name. Just to say hi for the given name. Okay, guys. So I want to take a name as the input. I want to take the name as the input. System.out.println. System.out.println. Whatever the name. So here, can I say my lambda is taking a input and it is just printing the output. Is my lambda returning anything? Is my lambda returning anything? Guys, come on. My lambda is just taking an input. It is printing some output on the console. That's it. My lambda is not returning anything. So here, lambda is available. I have written the lambda, which will take some input, will print some output. But is it returning anything or it is not returning anything? Is it returning anything? Is it not returning anything? Not returning anything. It is not returning anything. So now, should I use predicate or supplier or consumer to invoke this lambda? Predicate, supplier, consumer. Which one I need to use to invoke the lambda? Which one I need to use to invoke the lambda? Consumer. Why consumer here? Why consumer here? Only input, no output. It is not returning anything. Okay. So now let me take consumer. Input I'm giving as a string C. I'm storing this into lambda expression. I'm storing into functional interface reference variable C dot accept. Whatever the name I want to give, I can supply as a input for the lambda. My lambda is expecting name as a input. C dot accept of Ashok and C dot accept of some John. C dot accept of Rani. Like this. I can call this lambda 3 times by using this functional interface method. Run this program. Ashok, good evening. John, good evening. Rani, good evening. It is just printing on the console. It is just printing on the console. Consumer. Sir, what is this? We don't understand. Consumer interface is there. It is taking only input. It is not giving any output. Let us see here. Arrays dot as list. I'm giving 10. I'm giving 20. I'm giving 30. I'm giving 40. As list, I got numbers. I want to print these numbers on the console. Can you tell me what are the ways available to print list of numbers on the console? What are the ways we can print these collection numbers, collection of objects? One is by using for loop. We know that already. Another one is by using for each loop. We know that already. For each loop. Another one is by using iterator. We know that. Another one is by using list iterator. We know that. Okay. So now I have created one array list object, one list object I created. In the list I have stored some numbers. 3 or 4 numbers available. I want to iterate this collection now. I want to iterate these collections now. By using for loop, you can do that. By using for each loop, you can do that. By using iterator, you can do that. By using list iterator also, you can do that. But in the 1.8, they introduced one new method called for each method. Let us see what is that for each method. Numbers dot for each. Can you see the signature of the for each method? What parameter for each method is expecting? What is the parameter for the for each method, guys? Can you see the method parameter? For each method introduced in the Java 1.8 version. What that for each method is expecting? Consumer. That means for each method developed in the 1.8 using a consumer as a functional interface. That means it will take the input. It will take the input. It will not give anything as a output. System.out.println of I. That's it. This single line will print all the numbers available in the collection. For each method, see how simple it is. See how simple it is. See how simple it is. Do I need to write a for each loop? Do I need to write a for loop? Do I need to use iterator? Do I need to use list iterator? How simply I am using for each method. For each method will take the input and it will just print it. That's it. You just print it. You don't need to do anything else. For each method this is a lambda. This lambda we are passing as a consumer. It will take the input, but it will not give any output. For each method is taking consumer as a input. What is consumer? Consumer is a functional interface. Consumer is predefined functional interface. It contains one abstract method that is accept. Consumer will accept input, but it won't return anything. It won't return anything. Note. In Java 8, for each method got introduced. For each method got introduced. For each method will take consumer as a parameter. Will take a consumer as parameter. For each method will take consumer as parameter. Consumer means only accept the input, but it will not provide any output. See how Java people maintain naming conventions. Consumer will only accept input but no output. That's why in the consumer they have given the name as accept. Supplier will not take an input, it will only provide the output. We can just get the output from the supplier. So in the supplier interface they have given get method. In the consumer interface they have given accept method. Can I say that this is the one of the example for consumer for each? Can I say that this is one of the example for the for each? Yes. Now tell me when to go for supplier and when to go for consumer. When to go for supplier and when to go for consumer. Come on. When to go for supplier and when to go for consumer. Understood, guys? Huh. So here consumer, how many inputs it is taking, guys? Only one input. Suppose I want to pass 2 inputs for the consumer. Then there is a concept called by consumer. For a predicate, currently we are passing only one input for the predicate. If you want to pass 2 inputs for the predicate, by predicate is available. To supply 2 inputs for the consumer, by consumer is available. We will come to them later point of time. So now we are understanding what is predicate, what is a supplier, what is a consumer. Predicate is a functional interface which will take input and will return true or false. If you want to supply more than one input for the predicate, then you need to go for by predicate. Supplier will not take any input, it will just return the output. Okay. Consumer will take input but will not return anything. If you want to supply more than one input for the consumer, then we need to go for by consumer. We need to go for by consumer. Understood? What is the difference between predicate, consumer, and supplier? Difference between predicate, consumer, and supplier. Are you clear? Now, I have a requirement. Retrieve student record based on student ID, and return that record. Yeah, this is my requirement. Retrieve student record based on student ID and return that record. Okay, guys. Can I use predicate? Can I use predicate? No. Can I use a supplier for this? No. Can I use consumer for this? No. All the three interfaces which we discussed will satisfy this, will satisfy my requirement, will not satisfy my requirement. Whatever the three interfaces we discussed, those three interfaces will satisfy my requirement or will not satisfy my requirement? Will not. If I go for predicate, just it will return true or false. Predicate. What is predicate? Conditional check. And returns true or false. True or false. If I go for supplier, no input, only output. But I want to retrieve the student based on ID. I want to retrieve student based on the ID. So can I give the ID for the supplier as an input? Can I give ID as an input for the supplier? Will it accept it? No. Okay. If I go for consumer, I can give ID, but no return. It will not return anything. ID I can give as input for consumer. Consumer will accept input, but consumer will not give anything. Supplier will not take anything, will give something as output. Predicate will take input, but only conditional check, returns true or false. Predicate will return only true or false. That's it. But I want to return student record. Predicate will take input. Predicate can take anything as input. Predicate can take one input. Predicate can take two inputs. If you want to pass a single input, you will go for a predicate. If you want to pass more than one input for the predicate, there is a by predicate. There is a by predicate. Is there any interface? Is there any interface which will satisfy my given requirement? Can we write the lambda? Can we call them? Can we call that lambda by using any one of these interfaces? No. Understand the difference, right? Predicate, it takes input, returns true or false, only true or false. Supplier will not take input, but it will return output. Will not take input. Will not take any input, returns output. Returns output. Consumer will take input, will not return output, will not return anything. Predicate will take input, returns true or false. Supplier will not take any input, returns output. Consumer will take input, will not return anything. Surya Kumar, are you sleeping? Predicate returned Ashoka. Predicate not returned Ashok. Predicate checking the condition. If condition satisfied, I am printing Ashok. Predicate not returning Ashok. You are not concentrating on the class. Is predicate returning anything? If p dot test, in the if condition I am calling the predicate. That means it will give true or false. If it is true, then it is printing the value. If it is false, it is not printing. Why predicate will return Ashok or some value? Predicate will return only Boolean value, man. Supplier is returning. Supplier will return. Consumer will not return. Predicate will return only true or false. Concentrate on the class, buddy. सोना मत. ठीक है. People are asking, please repeat, please repeat. कितना बार repeat करूं भाई? How many times I need to repeat? Please repeat, please repeat. क्या repeat करूं? I'm getting throat pain by repeating these many times. How to concentrate? Don't use mobiles when you are listening to the class. Don't join the class from mobile. You will not get that interest. Join from laptop. You need to sit properly and you need to listen to the class. It's very important. Java 8 is confusing. A new concept. I told you, complete programming style got changed in the Java from Java 8. Even though Java 19 version came in the market, still Java 8 having demand. Most of the people are not aware of the Java 8 features because it is confusing for them to learn. Self-learning is little difficult for the Java 8. You have to concentrate. I'm repeating every concept 2 to 3 times. I'm giving example. I'm writing the code in front of you. Still, if you are not able to understand, मैं क्या करूं? Am I executing any code which is available in the file already, or I'm writing the code in front of you? I'm writing the line by line in front of you and I'm explaining that. Still you are not able to understand. That means you are not focusing on the class. You send me 10 times, please repeat. How many times I need to repeat, man? I'm not a machine. I'm a human being. Please understand that. I'm not a machine. For every concept you're asking, please repeat. Good. So here I have given a requirement. Retrieve student record based on the student ID and return that record. So here I'm taking predicate. Predicate will not satisfy our requirement. Predicate will take only input and it will return true or false value. Supplier will not take any input and it returns output. Here consumer will take the input, will not return anything. But is there any interface in these three which will satisfy our requirement? Is there any interface which will satisfy these requirement? No, not these three. That's where we will go for one more functional interface called function. Function will take input, will return output. For the given requirement, what we need to do? For the given requirement, we need to go for function. Function is the functional interface which will take input and which will return the output. Understand my point? Function interface is available. Function interface will take the input and the function interface will give the output also. Able to follow me? Right. Let me create function demo. Main method. Yeah, I want to take a name as a input and I want to get length of the name. Name dot length. Name is the input and the length of the name is the output. So can I say this lambda is expecting name as input and a lambda is giving length as the output? Can you say that this lambda taking name as input, this lambda giving length of the name as output? Yes. Lambda having input, lambda having return value. Which functional interface I need to use to call this lambda? Do I need to write my own functional interface or I can go for a function? Function. Let me store this lambda into function. Let me store this lambda into function. Input is a string, output is integer. F. Yes, here generic. Input string, name is a string, output is length of the name, that is the integer. Function, name and length of the name. Now here let me go for f dot apply. What is the method available in the function interface? Apply. Let me give the name apply. Okay. So when I call this apply, it is going to give some value, right? As the output, system.out.println. When you have a lambda which will take input and which you want to give some output, then you need to call that lambda by using function. Now I am giving Ashok IT. So Ashok IT is the input for the lambda as a name and the lambda returning length of the name. So I am getting 7. 7 is the length of the name. Similarly, let me go for here some HYD. And here I'm going for some Sachin, something like this. I'm running this program. Now see 3, 6. Sachin having 6 characters, Hyderabad having 3 characters, Ashok IT having 7 characters. So like this, we are writing a lambda expression which is taking an input and which is giving the output. Now, can we satisfy this requirement by using function? Student ID is the input. Based on the student ID, it will retrieve the record and it will return the record. Based on the student ID, I can take the student ID as an input and it will, based on the ID, it can retrieve the record from the database and it can return the student record. It can return the student record. Got my point? Perfect. Function. Okay. Function, that is a functional interface. Function, that is a functional interface. So what is the purpose of a function and why we need to use it? Function is predefined functional interface. Function is a predefined functional interface. Okay. Function is a predefined functional interface. Function interface having one abstract method called apply. Function interface having one abstract method that is apply. It is taking input and it is giving output. Okay, here interface will be available like this: function, return value and input. R means return, T means input. Inside this R, apply is the function name, method name in the function interface. You can pass input and you can get the output. It takes input and it returns output. It takes input and it returns output. Okay. This is the example for functional interface. Function is a functional interface which will take the input and it will return the output. Are you clear with this? 4 functional interfaces: predicate, supplier, consumer, function. What is the difference between them and when to use which one? What is the difference between them and when to use which one? Are we able to understand the difference? Yeah, lambdas and functional interfaces. Now, guys, now do you realize what is the purpose of the lambda? Now, do you realize what is the purpose of the lambda? What is the purpose of the lambda? Can I say lambdas are used to reduce number of lines of code? Number of lines of code can be reduced. Less number of lines of code will do more work when we go for lambda. That is called concise code. Lambda expressions introduced to write more readable and concise code in the Java. Lambda expression means an anonymous function. Lambda expression means an anonymous function, no name, no modifier, and no return type. No name, no modifier, and no return type. Lambda is used to write concise code. Lambda expressions are used to write concise code. Okay, good. How to call the lambdas? Whenever you write a lambda, how to call that lambda? Can you guys tell me how to call the lambda expressions? How to call the lambda expressions? How to call the lambda expressions? Using functional interface. Lambda expression will be stored into a variable. That variable belongs to functional interface. By using functional interface abstract method, we can call lambda. What is functional interface? What is functional interface? Come on, guys. What is functional interface? Which contains only one abstract method. It is called as functional interface. Right. Can you tell me what are the predefined functional interfaces we have? Can you tell me what are the predefined functional interfaces we have? Predicate, predicate, by predicate, supplier, consumer, by consumer, function, by function. Got it? Yes. Now, are you able to understand what is a predicate? Are you able to understand what is predicate? Yes. Now, how many inputs we are giving to predicate? How many inputs we are giving to predicate? One input. If I want to supply more than one input, if I want to supply more than one input for the predicate, then what we need to use? Yes, that's where by predicate comes into picture. By predicate comes into picture. Now see here, I'm going to take I comma j. I'm going to take I comma j. I will write I plus j greater than or equal to 20. I plus j greater than or equal to 20. Now what my lambda is doing? My lambda is taking two inputs and checking the sum of the given two numbers greater than or equal to 20 or not. I want to store this into functional interface. What is that functional interface? By predicate. T and U both are integers only. I'm passing integer comma integer by predicate. By predicate. System.out.println by predicate dot test of 2 comma 3. Okay, by predicate dot test of 5 comma 5. System.out.println of some line separation. Okay, 2 comma 3 is greater than 10, false. 5 comma 5, sum greater than 20, false. So when to go for normal predicate, when to go for normal predicate, when to go for by predicate? Can you tell me the difference between predicate and by predicate? Can you tell me the difference between predicate and by predicate? Similarly, when to go for by consumer? When to go for by consumer? When to consumer by consumer? Consumer will accept one input. If you want to supply two inputs, by consumer. If I want to supply two inputs, function by function. Okay, guys. Predicate will take one input, by predicate will take two inputs. Consumer will take one input, by consumer will take two inputs. Function will take one input, by function will take two inputs. That's the difference. Good. Okay, perfect, guys. Suppose if I want to pass three inputs, can I take three inputs also? I plus j plus k. Can I take three inputs? By predicate, is it accepting three inputs? By predicate, no. It is accepting only two inputs. Two inputs. By predicate. Functional interface introduced in the 1.8 version. It is a Boolean function of two arguments. This is the two array specialization of the predicate. So test method, it will take only two inputs, guys. It will take only two inputs. One input means predicate, two inputs means by predicate. Got it? Yes. Okay, so with this we understood what is predicate, supplier, consumer, and function. Predicate will take input and returns true or false. Supplier, consumer, function. By predicate is there, by consumer is there, by function is available. Why by supplier not available? Do we have by supplier? Why by supplier not available? Because supplier will not take any input. That's why by supplier is not available. ठीक है ना? Okay, good. So with this, we understood what is lambda, how to write the lambda, and what is functional interface, and how to call the lambdas by using functional interface. What is a predicate? What is predicate and by predicate? What is a supplier? Then what is consumer? And by consumer, what is a function and what is by function? These are predefined functional interfaces. We will use them in the stream API. Why we covered these concepts here? To understand the stream API. These concepts got covered here to understand our stream API. Okay, so please practice these examples before coming to tomorrow's session. In the tomorrow session, we will discuss about method references and constructor references in the Java 1.8. Once the method references, constructor references, optional class is completed, then from Thursday, we will start the stream API. From Thursday, we will start the stream API. Tomorrow, we'll discuss about method references and constructor references. Okay, guys, good. Fine, I want you people to practice this before coming to tomorrow's class. So with this, I'm stopping for today. We'll continue in the tomorrow session. Thank you. Bye-bye.